What is best in life? To crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and to hear the lamentation of their women.
All right. What is it? Sunday night? Must be the Sunday night Radio Baloney Live. I'm your host, Richie Baloney. How's everybody doing out there? Who we got? A Trudeau Survivor. Good to see you. Dramus, good to see you. Denny, Rosie, good to see you guys already in the chat. What happy times this is for all of us. Wonderful times. All right. Well, let's just go through the menu first, and then we will go back to the chat, and then we'll come back and go through the stories in detail. Now, this is a pretty Canada-heavy one. This is... I should have called it really the Don't Be Canada special because, yeah, Canada is a perpetual laughingstock for the rest of the world right now. And a cautionary tale. So anybody watching from outside of Canada, it's important. You must honor your ancestors by watching this so that you can prevent what's happening to Canada happening to you. So Canada is functioning now as a cautionary tale. That's our function in the world right now. In the history books, that will be our function during this era. Be a warning to the rest of the world. Don't do this. All of these things, don't do them. All right. First off, we have a story about Canadian polling and why it is so off all the time. So, David Coletto from Abacus, who's been the most accurate pollster that I've seen over the last 5 years anyway, has an explanation for why the polls have been so off, why the conservative vote is so underestimated, and why you see these kind of ridiculous polls coming out with like the liberals up like 20 points, 15 points. And it has to do with how the polls are weighted and who voted for who in the last election, and knowing that is a way to correct it. We're going to go into that. We, of course, have this, which has now gone famous. It's on Fox News. You have that person, who is, a professor of queering education or something. And, just wants to basically trans every kid in the country, apparently. So, this made it onto Fox News. This is why I say Canada is becoming a cautionary tale. It's becoming an international laughingstock. We're going to get into this, into all this stuff happening in Canada, this RISE program, and just how insane where the funding is coming from. I mean, this is all the reason this person exists is because of the Canadian government and the Canadian government funding it. Don't be Canada. Here we have Conservative MP Aaron Gunn, North Island, British Columbia, just trying to get an answer out of this liberal, the Minister of Fisheries, regarding fisheries and fisheries closures and the UN and their 30 by 30 and what's going on exactly. It's the usual story. Nothing happens. Canada, I think at this point, is just being run by the UN. I think we know that Mark Carney was, maybe I'm overstating that, but certainly very, very heavily influenced by the UN, or just completely run by the UN. We know that Mark Carney was the UN Global Climate Finance Envoy. So, yeah. Anyway, then we got some woke mind virus stuff. This is not specific to Canada, this one. Just explaining, how you can tell if a political and economic system is good or bad. Kind of like, do people want to go to it or they're trying to escape? It's pretty simple. These lefties they don't want to accept it. Just reality. I think that is all of the left now. Is just ignore reality. That's their thing. Spending a lot of time pretending they don't understand things that are obvious. We've got a meme review, which is pretty heavy on Canada on this one as well, but it's not all Canada, but pretty heavy on Canada. There's a lot of Canada in there. All right. Yes. So more Canada, more Don't Be Canada. Here's Avi Lewis, the leader of the NDP, And he has this incredibly sensible and rational plan and practical plan of government grocery stores, government-run grocery stores that he claims will save 30 to 40% off food. And that's not going to happen. And it's insane. And he doesn't know math. And the numbers are all wrong. And what else is new? Let's see. Then we have the last tab of the evening, which has got a bunch of crazy stuff that you crazy bastards sent in. So when I show you this stuff, it's your fault. Don't blame me. It's you. There's lots of good stuff in here, actually. Some of it's political, some of it's comedy, some of it we can't show you until tomorrow, because that'll be on a Rumble only, the Rumble Premium exclusive, people, that everybody loves. If you're watching on YouTube right now, please subscribe to the second channel. We're working our way up to getting monetized. We're only, 315 subscribers away from getting monetized now. Please go there. You get all of these wonderful videos. Here, look at this, meme reviews, and then there's Colbert flip-flop on gas prices, and Germany's authoritarian move. Where Germany wants to be able to ban right-wingers from buying houses. So nothing weird about that. Nothing, bad guys from World War II about that. Let's see. There's Carney talking, the floor crossers buying the majority government, just buying democracy in Canada. Zoran Mamdani has had to back down on his free buses thing because it doesn't work and socialism doesn't work. And when will they ever learn? Apparently never. All right, let's get to the chat, people. Let's do this right now. As everybody knows, we're streaming on Rumble, on YouTube, on X, and on Locals. And when you like the stream, you get free good karma, obviously. And obviously, when you subscribe or become a channel member, when you when you lose your mind and you just send me money for some reason, you get good karma. Easiest way, just like the stream. Easiest way. Do the other things as well, but also like the stream, and you get extra good karma if you're in early. So, who's early today? Trudeau Survivor 1. That's 6 good karmas. Boom. Somebody's going to sleep well tonight with no worries, knowing they've got all that good karma in their back pocket. Fantastic stuff. Dramus Eves 2. That's 5 good karmas. Boom. Yes. Rosie's here with 3. That's 4 good karmas. Boom. Beautiful times. Beautiful, beautiful. Trudeau Survivor says, I heard Carney's wife speak for the first time at the Libtard convention. His accent, her accent sounds more Austrian or Russian than it does English. Well, look, try to stay away from, insulting family members, especially when they look like Skeletor. So let's be careful. Let's be compassionate, people. All right, what's going on? Let's see. How you doing, Denny? What do we got? Turtles says, how you doing, Turtles? I'm worried about Hungary and Ireland too. Poor Canada. Well, Ireland with the fuel protests right now, the big truck and farmer and everybody protests over the fuel. That is one that I want to cover, probably get to it later this week, maybe tomorrow or Tuesday. Also, Hungary, I want to cover. I just did not have enough time today to get it all together. There's a few more things I want to look into with Hungary and into the new leader of the country. Yeah. The honest truth is, people, is that I had a nap today. I had a lazy Sunday afternoon nap, and I just didn't have time. But maybe tomorrow we'll do more of a deep dive into that because it's interesting. My suspicion is that they got carnied. So they got somebody in backed by the EU. Obviously, the EU is going to anybody other than Orban, but a guy who's coming in saying some of the right things about corruption or about, getting rid of foreign workers. Well, I've got a feeling he's a wolf in sheep's clothing, or, he's for the EU. He's just said what he needed to say to get in, and they're going to open the floodgates and start pouring refugees into Hungary and forcing them to take them. But I don't know, which is why I haven't done it yet. And we're not doing it tonight. So I got to do a bit more research on that. Trudeau Survivor says, how you doing, Trudeau Survivor? Says, is Rise just Soji rebrand? It's all the same stuff. It's all just Marxism. It's all just critical pedagogy, right? It's all the same. It's all the same thing. There's like, I swear there must be thousands of these that are all funded by the Canadian government. Let's see. Turtle says bread lines are bad. Well, if Avi Lewis from the NDP gets his way, everybody will find that out. Turtle says Bernie Sanders said bread lines are a good thing. Bread lines are a good thing because there's bread. Ugh. None of them, they're just like little boys who never grow up, who just can't think straight. I don't know. Ask people who actually have to stand in bread lines all day for some crappy bread. And when they get to the end of it, and when they get to the end of the line, there's no bread left. Obviously, not every single time, but clearly it's better when you can just go and then there's like Soviets who ended up leaders who went to the United States, walked into a grocery store and were just like amazed, like what? Like how could we ever defeat an enemy with this much wealth? Let's see. Retired Coastie Chief, how you doing? Good to see ya. Hold on a second. All right. Nevada got like number 5. So what is that? Is that 2 good karmas? I think it's 2 good karmas. Nice. Let's see. Nevada, how you doing? Good to see ya. Says maybe it's baloney time. It certainly is, sir. It certainly is. All right. Yeah, hold on. Denny says there's an uprising in Ireland. There is. I need to do more research into it before, and I just haven't had time today as well. But I need to look into it more and nail it down a little bit better before we cover it. But yeah, there's certainly a lot going on over there. And I think it's, it's certainly, the main thing is the fuel costs there, which have spiked obviously with the Iran thing, with the Iran war. But I think there's a lot there's immigration is tied in there too, and to a lesser degree, but there's a general kind of distrust and anger with the government that's been building now. We've been covering it for years at this point. Let's see. Nevada's doing all right. Okay, awesome. All right. Let's get to this. So, Dre T says, new Abacus data poll. Liberal Party of Canada, 44%, CPC, 38%, NDP, 8%, Bloc Québécois, 6%, Greens, 3%, others, PPC, 2%. So this is a reasonable poll. This is a poll that makes sense considering we're only a year out from the last election. We've seen these polls with these crazy numbers. Like, let's go to let's hold on a second. Like here from February 24th, Angus Reid, Liberal Party of Canada, 45%, Conservative Party of Canada, 32%, down 9 points. This doesn't make any sense. As we've been seeing these polls, I've been saying, no, it's not that wide. The Liberals are leading. The Liberals are certainly leading, but it's not like that. It's going to be a lot closer to what it was in the last election because people don't change that much in a year. And there was so much anger against the Liberal Party and Trudeau and so much distrust of the party, including against Carney in that last election with, a record number of people voting Conservative and with the highest percentage of the vote in 40 years. 41.5%. So I was never buying this huge 15, 20-point leads for the Liberals. And there's a post here from David Coletto. Now, he runs Abacus Polling, which has been the most accurate pollster over the recent election cycles. And he said this: over more than a decade of research, we have found a consistent pattern. In demographically weighted samples, conservative voters tend to be underrepresented relative to their actual share of the vote. And that happened in the last election. Well, even Abacus was off with the conservative vote by over 2 points. They had them at 39%. They ended up with, I think, 41.3. So even they were a little bit off, but they were not only close with the final prediction, the final polling, but all along. They weren't all over the place, up and down with wild swings. They were pretty consistent, which is why I tend to trust Abacus data. So let's take a look. Why we wait by past vote. The central challenge in modern polling is not simply measuring opinion, it is ensuring that the people we hear from reflect the people we do not. So let's see. A structural challenge every pollster faces. Are the people answering my surveys like the people who are not? Polling today is hard, not because people are doing anything wrong, but because the environment we're all operating in has changed in ways that I think introduces persistent structural bias into our samples. The bigger issue is how people are recruited and who ends up in those panels. That process is not random, and it introduces systemic differences that are not evenly distributed across the electorate. Telephone surveys, which were once considered the gold standard, now face response rates so low that they introduce their own form of bias. And by the way, who would still answer a poll by landline these days, or telephone generally? Who's more likely to do that? Seniors, right? And who does Carney have a big advantage with in Canada? The 65 plus boomers. We are no longer reaching a broad cross-section of the public. We are reaching a subset of people willing to answer unknown calls and stay on the line. I get this is boomers, people. Most pollsters, including us, weight by demographics such as age, gender, region, and education. That helps. But over time, we have come to believe that it is not enough. So there's a missing piece here. What is that? Looking at behavior, not just characteristics. Asking people how they voted in the last election gives us a benchmark that reflects the actual electorate. It allows us to compare the partisan composition of our sample to a known outcome and adjust accordingly. Now, you'd think this would be obvious and everybody would just do this, right? And we have a record of how people voted in the last election. That would help. Now, David Coletto's conclusion in this is that it's just an error, that it's not intentional. I'm not so sure about that. And when we take a look at how wild the polls were here, like how wild all these polls were during the election cycle, leading up to the election cycle and during it, and then kind of herding at the end here, makes me think that there's actually some intentionality behind it. But let's go back. Hold on. So 43 surveys, 5 election cycles, one consistent pattern. So what's that pattern? The growing gap, conservative voter underrepresentation in our samples. And this is from Abacus data, abacusweighting.com. 2011 cycle, 1.8% underrepresented. That's conservative votes. 2015, 3.1% underrepresented. 2019, 4.4% underrepresented. 2021 election, 6.0%. points underrepresented. 2025, 7.6% underrepresented. And this is basically this looks like the media bias in Canada, the mainstream media of, like the CBC going more and more progressive and more biased, just literally biased against anything with the word conservative attached to it. So you can see it's getting worse. And I think this also maps well onto how much worse the mainstream media in Canada has gotten as well. Always there was a liberal bias, but at this point it's totally unforgivable and it's absolutely blaringly obvious. In every single wave across every single election cycle, conservative voters are underrepresented in our demographically weighted sample relative to their actual share of the vote. Not in most waves, not in some elections, in every case we can observe. So a consistent pattern. Looking at our final polls in the last 3 federal elections, applying past vote weighting increased conservative vote estimates, reduced liberal vote estimates, and brought our numbers closer to the actual result. So how past vote weighting changed our final estimates? Well, 2019 for the Conservatives, without past vote weight, 30%. With past vote weight, 33%. Actual result, 34.3%. So without the past vote waste, it was off by 4.3%. And still off by 1.3% with the vote weight. So you can see even with that, they're still finding it hard to perfectly, and it's polling, so nothing's ever going to be perfectly, but there still seems to be a bias, a little one, a small bias at least. Liberal Party for 2019, without past vote weight, 36%. With it, 34%. Actual result, 33.1. As you can see, there's still a bit of bias there, but it's closer, much more accurate. And it's the same thing all along. Like here at 2021, 26% without past vote weight. Actual result, 33.7. That's way off. That's 7.7%. With the past vote weight, though, 33%. Almost right on the money. I mean, that's as good as polling is going to get. Let's take a look at 2025. So the Conservatives, without weighting it properly, 35%. With the past vote weight, 39%. That's a 4-point difference. Actual result, 41.2. So that's a 6.2% difference. That's a big deal. That's massive, right? That's the sort of thing that would convince people that it's hopeless, say, and there's no point voting. So if you're looking at, a 7-point difference, 8-point difference, if you've got polls out there with, 12-point differences, 15-point differences, leads for the Liberals, it almost feels like that might be designed to demoralize conservative voters and stop them from going to the polls, huh? Almost like it can be used as a weapon. So let's take a look. Did pollsters converge as election day neared? Well, they did, and this is what really makes me think that while there may be some honest mistakes happening, when you see everybody hurting at the end here, so what happened? They just learned how to poll suddenly? It almost makes me feel like they're trying to create the impression, they're trying to create disillusionment and demoralization in conservative voters, that there is an obvious bias. I mean, look at this. Look at this one here. There's pollster 1. In February 21st, had the Liberals up by 14.4%. That's just ridiculous. That was never going to happen, right? Here, pollster 3. This is April 2nd, up 11 points. I mean, look, voters didn't change their mind that much before the election, right before the vote. Nobody was changing their mind that much before the vote. That's just wrong. And it's so wrong, you have to wonder that if it's not intentional. Here's another one. This is April 12th at 9 points. Pollster 3, 5.6%. So let's go to, here we have, what do we have here? Abacus ended up with a 2-point advantage to the Liberals. So underestimating the Conservatives by 2 points. You had Pollster 1 plus 6, Pollster 4, 4 points. Pollster 2, their prediction was 3 points. So that's how much they were off by in favor of the Liberals. Okay, so Abacus did the best job. And even they were off a little bit, 2%. I mean, again, polling is not a perfect art. But still, every single error was in favor of the Liberals. And that tells you something, right? And again, you see these crazy swings, like here, the purple line here, Pollster 3. I mean, look at this. It's insane. What is happening there? So either they don't know how to poll, or there's something going on, right? Either that, or it's a political weapon. So this is what we're seeing. Now, I'm comfortable with this poll here. The new Abacus data poll, Liberals 44%, Conservatives 38%. We're going to assume, because the bias always goes only one way, that you can probably add a couple of points to that, which would put us not far off where the last election was. If you take a little bit off from the Liberals, which seems likely, and add a couple of points to the Conservatives as well, which seems also very likely, it basically puts you back in the same place as the last election, which would make sense, wouldn't it? Which would make sense. You know what doesn't make sense? Here. Angus Reid poll, 45% LPC, 32% Conservative Party. That makes no sense. Here, Nanos poll, February 20th, 2026, at 41.3% for the Liberals, which that does make sense. But 33.7% for the Conservatives does not make sense. That's a very large, there's no way that many conservative voters just decided they don't like the Conservative Party anymore. I don't believe it. Not in a year. Politics it just doesn't work like that. So I think after all of this, after all of these kind of hysterical headlines and these crazy polls, I think that we're really right back where we were in the last election. And I think that there's a lot of work. I think polling is being used as a weapon, and I think it's being used to demoralize and to push narratives in the media. And I haven't seen anything to dissuade me from that at this point. All right, let's go to the chat. There we go. So something wonderful has happened, people. Something truly marvelous and wonderful has happened. We have Rosie gifting a subscription to Radio Baloney here on Rumble. I mean, what a wonderful thing. I can barely believe it myself, but it's true. This has actually happened. Everybody will remember where they were at this moment. Guess who the best person ever is? As we always say, people have their heroes. You see the history books, all these great men and women and everything. Yeah, and they're all fine. Hey, I give them the credit. They're all fine. My only point is, compared to Rosie and her gifting a subscription to Radio Baloney on Rumble, compared to her, all I'm saying is that they're all dog shit, because that is the best thing anybody can ever do. And everybody knows it. And Rosie knows it. And you know it. And I know it. Best person ever, Rosie. Seriously, though, it is really the best thing anybody could do for the channel. So thank you very much. It really is the best thing anybody can do. So thanks, Rosie, for that. All right. So let's go to the chat. What are you guys talking about? And who got that membership? That was Chef Rico got it. How you doing, Chef Rico? All right. All right. Nevada says Democrats always slant the polls here. Remember, Hillary was a huge favorite to win. Well, there were a couple of polls that we were following. What were they? I can't remember off the top of my head now. There were two polls. I did some research. I did the thing you're not supposed to do. And just went over the last few election cycles and found out who were the most accurate pollsters. And there was two that were really accurate. And we just followed them. And you guys were with me. And we just followed them and we saw what they were saying. And I didn't call it, but I said, if these polls are as correct as they've been in the last few election cycles, Trump's going to win. And he's going to win probably 5 or 6 of the swing states. He ended up getting all of them. So we weren't surprised on this channel. So but this is why you can't just go off the aggregates, because the aggregates are crazy. You've got one in Canada called ECOS, which is just like every poll. It's like liberals take every seat in the House, plus 80 points. Those go into the aggregates and totally poison it. So you have to find a couple. Like in Canada, Abacus is really good. You're going to have a much clearer picture of what's actually going to happen if you follow them. But yeah, in the American election, the last one, we weren't surprised. Everybody else was. We weren't. I mean, it's the simplest thing in the world. You just look at the track record. Like who was right last time, or who was the closest to being correct in the last few elections, and it's a pretty good bet their methodology is going to keep working. So yeah, we weren't surprised here, were we, on election night? Let's see. Rosie says, I think it's more than slant. I think they make them up. Well, they're not just like making up. They're not just like pulling up a spreadsheet and just writing in whatever numbers they want, but there's things they can do. Like when you look at the crosstabs of polls, like one thing to see is like, well, how is it weighted? Like in Canada, for instance, are you looking at like how much of the poll is 65 plus? We know that liberal boomers, Carney has an advantage of over 20 points with boomers in Canada, right? So if they've overweighted that demo, you're going to get a skewed poll, right? Like in the States, if they just only polled college students, right? If they had a too large of a sample, if they too much weight on that college vote or something, or women, right? You're going to get a skewed poll. And that's how they do it. They know what they're doing, and they're finding larger representations of groups that they know are going to give them the answer that they want. Chef Rico says, sorry if I'm despondent. I'm cooking dinner. Cheer up. I mean, dinner alone is a reason to cheer up. Dinner alone. Let's see. Radio Streamer says, hello, everybody. I'll be in and out. Been working all day. I'm so tired. I'm almost too tired to hate commies. Almost. I have to be dead. I have to be dead for that. So I'm not too tired yet. More commie hate. Coming up, Radio Streamer. We salute you. Let's see. Turtle says a dog voted in San Fran and a dead woman did 4 times. I did see something about that. The dog voting in San Francisco. Hold on 1 second. Hold on 1 second. Maybe we should pull it up just to remind ourselves. A dog voted in San Francisco. I mean, obviously the dog didn't actually vote. Let's see. Well, hold on. What does Snopes say? Let's find out. Did dog illegally vote in California election? Sniffing out the truth. Now, Snopes is pretty biased. Sometimes they get it right. Prosecutor said a vote cast in the dog's name was counted in California's 2021 gubernatorial recall election. They're not going to go with, well, actually, the dog didn't actually vote itself. Dogs can't vote. But dogs don't. Dogs don't understand what elections are. Yes, we know that a dog didn't actually go down and fill in a ballot. Is that what they're going with? Let's see. Oh, they're going to make me do ad stuff. No, I'm not doing that. Let's take a look. ABC News. Woman posted a picture of a dog with "I voted" sticker after registering pet to vote. The dog's vote was successfully counted in a 2021 election. I'm guessing that Snopes' take on this was dogs can't actually vote. They don't understand what elections are. However, a woman did vote in the dog's name. We know. We know. Holy jeez. It's a 2021 election. A California woman is facing 6 years in prison for allegedly registering her dog to vote and casting mail-in ballots in 2 elections, one of which was counted, the Orange County District Attorney's Office announced. Yikes. Laura Lee Yorex, 62 of Costa Mesa, was charged with 5 felonies, including perjury, procuring or offering a false or forged document to be filed, casting a ballot when not entitled to vote, and registering a non-existent person to vote. The dog's vote was successfully counted in the 2021 gubernatorial recall election, but was rejected in the 2022 primary. Well, that's interesting. Let's see. All right. So she's in trouble, and she should be. I mean, it's a pretty serious issue. And yeah, like it's funny, but you can't do that. Let's see. Rosie says, I'm positive it was a gummy dog. Gummy dog gets nothing. Gummy dog probably got a treat. Let's see. Radio Streamer says, now that I think about it, if my last words on my deathbed are communism doesn't work, I would be okay with it. Those are great last words. Let's see. Chef Rico says, at least the dog was bored here. Boom. I like it. I like it. All right. Shall we move on? So, oh God. So Canada is an international laughingstock. So Canada is an international laughingstock. It has been since Trudeau took over in 2015 with his magic socks and the many, many photographs of him performing blackface at many events. Canada's become a ridiculous, ludicrous country. And the world is noticing it, obviously. Here, Fox News has noticed something about Canada. A professor of queer studies and education from Canada gets roasted on U.S. national TV. This is how the world now sees Canadian academia. We used to export excellence. Now we export this. Well, this clip was posted by Wealth Moose. Let's take a look.
Listen to this Canadian professor.
I have worked with 4- and 5-year-olds in schools who have genders that their parents don't want them to have. Parents' rights have suddenly been
Get that? I've worked with. Let's listen to that one more time.
Listen to this Canadian professor.
I have worked with 4- and 5-year-olds in schools who have genders that their parents don't want them.
Okay, that's how insane it is. This person's all of this stuff is funded by the government, by the way, and is like official government policy. Worked with 4- and 5-year-olds who have genders that their parents don't agree with. Just think of how psychotic that is. Okay? What is really going on here? It very much feels like, in fact, it's a certainty that they're being introduced to concepts they can't understand by people like this, people with this person's, frankly, totally, utterly insane views. People like this with views that are totally and utterly unmoored from reality, and they're just kind of saying what they think they're supposed to say because they're very impressionable, because they're 4- and 5-year-olds. For God's sakes, this is lunacy. Let's continue.
To have parents' rights have suddenly been weaponized against trans and non-binary and two-spirit youth. I want us to get really comfortable with challenging right-wing Christian patriarchy. I want to say,
just think if it was anything else. Get really comfortable with challenging fill in the blank. Not gonna fly. Not gonna fly. I mean, I would go so far as to say this is just utter and total corruption, actually. I mean, it's obviously this is obviously extremely bigoted, right? But because it's right-wing and Christian, it's okay. You're allowed to discriminate against those people. This person is a bigot.
things like you can do work around sexual orientation and gender diversity with children of all ages. And so I want us to think about these conversations in kindergarten.
Of course you do, you sick, fat, repulsive piece of. I'm sorry, censors, but I'm sorry. You know, I'd ask what they're putting in the water in Canada, but clearly it's ice cream. Madison, there was a lot of creepy stuff I showed there, and it can totally like.
The ice cream joke was good. There's more though. Let's watch this. This was posted by Retard Finder.
I have worked with 4 and 5-year-olds in schools who have genders that their parents don't want them to have. Parents' rights have suddenly been weaponized against trans and non-binary and two-spirit youth.
Parents' rights have been weaponized against the alphabet youth. See, I think, unfortunately, a lot of people who have no idea what's happening, who don't know anything about gender theory and how insane and unmoored from reality it is, that just hear that and think, well, that sounds like really bad. They have to be protected, right? She's talking about 4 and 5-year-olds who have genders that their parents don't agree with. Okay, who's coming up with these genders? These 4-year-olds and 5-year-olds are not coming up with this stuff. They can't possibly understand these concepts. Obviously, they have no idea what it's like to grow into a healthy adult human body, right? None of this is in any way sensible. It's all total insanity. What this sounds like is somebody who wants to literally indoctrinate children with concepts that they can't understand for their own purposes, for their own ideological purposes.
I hear from teachers who are really worried about parents who might have complaints. And I think there's a perception that parents are heterosexual.
God damn it. Might have complaints about, hold on a second. Let's go back.
Because I hear from teachers who are really worried about parents who might have complaints. And
complaints about teachers lying to their children, filling their heads with bizarre concepts that the children cannot understand, obviously cannot understand. Complaints about that?
I think there's a perception that parents are heterosexual, that they're white, that they have a particular set of Christian values. I think a lot.
Whites and Christian values, here you go again. These people are bigots, right? This person is a fanatic, a bigoted fanatic.
A lot of educators feel really limited in what they can do because they're worried about the imagined parent community. And often that's the community because those parents are the loud voices in a school community. I want us to get really comfortable with.
They just want to be able to tell your children literally anything, turn them into, for one thing, little revolutionaries, but also fill their minds with lunacy. It's almost as if they need young people to give like authority and weight to their insane ideas, to their bizarre redefinition of the word gender into an infinite series of abstractions.
Challenging right-wing Christian patriarchy. I want to say
right-wing Christian patriarchy again. These people are nut bars. They're nut bars. So why does this even exist in Canada? Let's see. Well, this is a professor. This person's a professor. at the University of Regina. Research contributions broadly explore trans theory, queer theory, child agency, co-research with children, community engaged research, research with an ethics of care, trans patients, arts-based research, and asset-based research. We'll get to some of this arts-based research coming up soon, but as you can see, I mean, this is just a list of gibberish, right? So just a list of bizarre abstractions, totally disconnected from reality. Canada, you have things like this. There's tons of it. There's Soji. There's this Rise Queering Teacher Education. Okay. What is this funded by? This website represents the results from the RISE project on 2SLGBTQ plus expansive education, a 5-year SSHRC funded project. Well, what's that? Social Sciences and Humanities Research Council. Social Sciences and Humanities Research Council. So that's Canadian government. So the Canadian government is funding all of this. It's funding the indoctrination of everybody's children as young as 4 and 5. As soon as they get into kindergarten, they're starting with this stuff now. Let's see. Let's take a look into this. Hold on. Let's see. So what have we got here? So you've got IndigiQueer. That's one of them. The area of the site, IndigiQueer. Seriously, this is real. Area of the site that is under continuing development. That means that they're making it up as they go along and seeks to foreground Indigenous knowledges and understandings of sexuality and gender within the context of education. So gibberish, so nonsense that they're just making up as they go along. Queering education. Why is it so important to queer education? What does that actually mean? There doesn't seem to be any real definition other than just simply lying to children. It provides a more in-depth discussion of the principles and context framing the research and modules. Queering teacher education. What about just reading and writing? What this is a critical pedagogy, the purpose of which is to indoctrinate, not to educate, but to indoctrinate. Queering teacher education. The purpose of that is to indoctrinate people. It's just Marxist critical pedagogy, right? It's the purpose of it is to essentially create little revolutionaries, little communist revolutionaries. Now, let's see. K through 12 methods modules. Let's go to arts and music. So that seems innocent enough. I'm sure it's just, I'm sure there won't be anything too crazy in this. Let's see. What's this? What does it mean to queer teaching methods, courses, and arts-focused music, art, drama, content areas? Let's see. Queering arts means identifying and critiquing heterosexist and cisgenderist power structures embodied in visual and written texts, as well as assumptions that are made about who produces the highest quality and most noteworthy art. So it's not about art. It's about Marxism. It's about equity. It's about far leftism. It's about indoctrination. It's never the issue is never the issue. The issue is always the revolution. This is just the first thing that we come upon. So, yeah. Canada is going to continue to be mocked because this stuff is just running free under Mark Carney. I said that Mark Carney was just as woke as Justin Trudeau. And actually, I said that Mark Carney was not only just as woke as Justin Trudeau, he's more woke, actually. He's turbo Trudeau on everything, on economics, on debt, and on woke. So there's no end in sight for this. We're not going to be having an election for another 3 years. There's not going to be an election happening. So we're stuck with this now till 2029. And it's only going to get worse, and you can expect more legislation to empower nut bars like this. So anybody watching from outside of Canada, take note, honor your ancestors, take note of what Canada's doing, and don't allow it to happen in your country. Don't be Canada. All right. Let's go back to the chat. What are we? 51 minutes in. Radio Streamer says the shoe polish market will never recover when Trujina. That's our playful little name for Justin Trudeau. Trujina. Yeah, so I'm sure he's still doing blackface, but he does it for Katy Perry now. So she never knew she'd like it so much. Hold on a sec. Let's see. Trudeau Survivor says, I've worked with, quoting the lunatic professor, I've worked with 4 and 5-year-olds. She's talking as if she's a psychologist and the children are her clients. It's nuts. It's absolutely, and they absolutely seem to believe this stuff. With a mask, of course, Turtle says, my God, save the children. Literally save the children from that person. Jeff Rico says, Gruber says Two-Spirit. Yep. Radio Streamer says, this may be the witch Hansel and Gretel thought they killed. Looks like she ate the children. Bunch of them. Radio Streamer says, the parents' voices should be the loudest in a school. You commie. She is they're all commies, by the way. Every single one of them. We've already established this. Radio Streamer says, I'm getting all my commie hated before I have to get up and clean for a while. Well, it's cathartic. Let's see. Let's see. All right. Nevada says, I was cleaning while listening just now. It's cathartic to listen to this and clean. Or maybe it's cathartic to clean while you listen to this. I don't know. Either way, it's good. It's good news. All right. So let's get to the next thing, shall we? All right. So here's Aaron Gunn, who is a Conservative MP, North Island, Vancouver Island. And he's sharing a clip here with us. And it illustrates just how impossible it is to get any answers out of any liberal minister with this present government. They're just not answering questions. And you have to ask yourself why. Why don't they answer the questions? Well, it's because people won't like the answers if they hear them. Aaron Gunn says, wow, this is the most surreal exchange I've ever had in Canada's parliament. It's obvious the Liberals are desperately trying to cover up what their blind allegiance to the UN's 30 by 30 agenda actually means. Instead of refusing to answer questions, the Liberal minister needs to stop deflecting and tell fishermen, their families, and Canada's coastal communities the truth. So, by electing former board member of the World Economic Forum, the former UN Global Climate Finance Envoy, Canada has, by doing that, Canada decided that it was going to prioritize global interests instead of Canadian interests, UN interests instead of Canadian interests. Let's watch this.
Sit here.
Hold on.
Tell people the truth.
Aaron Gunn here, Member of Parliament for North Island Powell River. I wanted to show you guys a surreal exchange I had with the Liberal Minister of Fisheries and Oceans, Joanne Thompson, during committee, where she ardently defends the Liberal plan to impose mass closures to fishing grounds off BC's coast while refusing to acknowledge exactly what this would mean for fishermen and our economy. Take a look.
Mister, the last time we spoke, you accused fishermen of spreading misinformation relating to MPAs and the government's plan to close significant areas of BC's coast to fishing. And yet, we recently learned from Kathy Graham, the DFO Director of Marine Planning and Conservation, that your government is still planning to implement the UN's 30 by 30 framework, and that the department's previously released drafts, the ones that showed massive closures along BC's coast, were still the basis for what is planned going forward. So my question for you, Minister, is would you like to use this opportunity to apologize to fishermen, their families, and coastal communities and acknowledge that, yes, the government is planning to close areas of BC's coast to fishing?
What I will say to you is what I said the last time I was here. I believe we can do both. I believe that we can move forward with conservation sustainability.
What do you mean
and
by
at
do
the
both?
same
What do you mean by
at
do
the
both?
same time, if you could allow me to finish, at the same time, we support fisheries. We can do both in marine protected areas, and I certainly will work to ensure both happen.
So I appreciate that your argument that there are no trade-offs in this. I obviously disagree, but what I'm trying to get on the record, because we've had deflections and evasions on this question, is the department planning to close areas of BC's coast to fishing, yes or no? And do you acknowledge that marine closures have real economic effects?
What I will say to you, which is what I've just said, marine protected areas enable us to have conservation sustainability for the next generation, but also maintain fishing.
Okay, I appreciate
and we can
that.
do both.
Why won't she actually just answer the question? You're going to close down areas. You're going to close them down. She's not answering it for the obvious reason that they are going to.
And it's important that we do both. I'm not able to say more than that to you. So no, I'm not.
Not able to say more than that. You're the Minister of Fisheries. You're the top person.
So you can't give a yes or no question because
it's
Kathy
about
Graham
balance,
told
sir.
us.
It's about balance. And
Okay,
we can do
that's
both.
fine, but I'm asking you some simple yes or no questions so we can get a framework for what is happening. Yes or no, is the department planning to close areas of fishing off BC's coast as part of the marine planning area plan? Yes or no?
The officials are going to speak in the next hour, so you're welcome to.
The officials are going to speak. You're the top official. You're the Ministry of Fisheries. This is just par for the course with liberal politics. We know this is just since 2015. This is it. This is all that we get. They're always smug about it as well. They always know there's no consequences, just as she does. They're always just as smug as this woman here. How does it make sense that she has to pass it off to somebody else? You're supposed to be in charge. You're supposed to be the top person. We're not talking about some small detail here. We're talking about closing areas to fishing. Fishermen want to know. And I think they have a right to find out from the Minister of Fisheries, who's supposed to be representing their industry. I mean, it's shocking. It's shocking. So when Aaron Gunn talks about UN 3030 agenda, talking about this UN Environment Program, world must act faster to protect 30% of the planet by 2030. All right. The international community has made some headway on pledges to protect 30% of the Earth by 2030, but progress must accelerate. The official progress report from the UN Environment Program, World Conservation Monitoring Center, and the International Union for the Conservation of Nature has found. Now, we all want to conserve nature and conserve the planet, but there might be, different circumstances in different areas. All right. So this is a UN thing. All right. So Government of Canada, of course, adopted this in 2022 under Justin Trudeau. Government of Canada recognizing federal land and water to contribute to 30 by 30 nature conservation goals. Now, as usual, there's no actual thought put behind any of this. It just sounds good. It sounds progressive. It sounds left-wing. So therefore, it's good. So you just one size fits all. What do we have here? Today, Fisheries and Oceans Canada also released the 2022 Government of Canada guidance for recognizing marine OECMs. What is OECMs? That's other effective area-based conservation measures. Let's see. And of course, these are guidelines developed under the United Nations Convention on Biological Diversity. This collective Government of Canada contribution to biodiversity conservation is on display while the world is gathered in Montreal for the 15th Conference of the Parties, COP15, to the United Nations Convention on Biological Diversity. Wanted to read something in here. Let's see. The federal government has set the goal of conserving 30% of Canada's land and water by 2030 because science, trademark, shows that nature needs our help in order to reverse the decline in biodiversity, better fight climate change, and maintain a strong, sustainable economy. They're just going off science, folks, because it makes perfect sense. It's scientific that just every country would have to just pick 30% of land and water to conserve. So you just have to start cutting off parts of your fisheries because every country is exactly the same. Every country with a fishery industry is exactly the same. Canada is exactly the same as China, which has trawlers just digging up everything on the seabed and dragging it to the surface. Canada's exactly like that. It makes me wonder if it isn't science, if it's just fashion, if this is just things that people get together and at Davos, for instance, and have nice meals, very expensive meals that you'll never have, and just come up with things that sound good that they can pat each other on the back over without ever really thinking about it. Like, is there anybody at this point, this was a Trudeau thing, is there anybody at this point who would contend that Trudeau thought about anything? Like literally any of his policies, that he thought through any of this stuff? I doubt that very much. And I doubt that Mark Carney's thinking about it either. This is the kind of thing that plays real well in Davos while they're sipping their very expensive wines, or maybe chugging their very expensive wines. That's why Canada has to do this. And that's why Aaron Gunn is trying to get answers for his constituents that he can't get because the Minister of Fisheries says that, what does she say?
There are no trade-offs in this. I obviously disagree, but what I'm trying to get on the record, because we've had deflections and evasions on this question, is the department planning to close areas of BC's coast to fishing, yes or no? And do you acknowledge that marine closures have real economic effects?
What I will say to you, which is what I've just said, marine protected areas enable us to have conservation sustainability for the next generation, but also maintain fishing.
Okay, I appreciate
and we can
that.
do both, and it's important that we do both. I'm not able to say more than that to you, so no, I'm not going to answer
you
the
can't
other
give
question.
a yes or no question
Because it's
Kathy
about
Graham
balance,
told
sir.
us.
It's about balance, and
Okay,
we can do
that's
both.
fine, but I'm asking you some simple yes or no questions so we can get a framework for what is happening. Yes or no, is the department planning to close areas of fishing off BC's coast as part of the marine planning area plan? Yes or no?
The officials are going to speak in the next hour. So
You're not planning.
Again, you're the top person. You're the Minister of Fisheries. You're the top person, okay? You should know. You shouldn't need officials to come out and say anything. You should be able to answer his question. Are you going to be closing down areas to fishing? The people who depend on that for their livelihood would like to know. Again, just the smugness is what blows your mind, right? Just the total detachment from any sense of obligation or responsibility to the people she's supposed to be representing. And that, folks, is Canada. Don't be Canada. All right, let's go back to the chat for a minute. Let's see. What are you guys talking about? Let's see. Let's see. Radio Streamer says it's cathartic to hate Tommies while clean. I think he means commies. Or yes, he corrected that. Yes, commies. There was somebody called Tommy listening probably who went, well, I didn't do anything. Radio Streamer says, I bet it's the same commies that make updates. Oh, you bet it's the same ones. You bet. Let's see. Software updates? Absolutely. Trudeau Survivor says she can't say more because Brookfield had her sign an NDA. Probably. I think Brookfield just runs Canada now, right? They've got their man in charge. Radio Streamer says, commies gonna commie, gotta starve people somehow, gotta make things so expensive somehow that you can argue for rationing. Yes. So many people think we're at the end of history. Things can never get bad again. Things will always be Canada will always be prosperous. It doesn't matter how much you fiddle with everything or just wreck it. Just wreck all of the systems. Wreck everything that made us successful and prosperous in the past. That could never go away. We're at the end of history. All the problems have been solved. Doesn't matter what we do, how irresponsible we are. Yes, it does. Civilization is always on a razor's edge. This is not normal. The level of wealth that people live in now, even in a badly degraded Canada, is not normal. I always say, and this is not hyperbole, if you think that watching your family and friends starve to death was something from the past, it was just something that belongs to the past, you're wrong. You're wrong. That can happen to you, okay? History isn't done with us yet. And it's got, if we allow it, it's going to surprise us horribly in the worst possible ways. It all just comes down to resources, people. You got them. Radio Streamer says, my childhood would tell me Captain Planet. Is that who's running the world? Is that the UN? Is Captain Planet running the UN? Rosie asked, and this is a good question. It's because Canada, by the way. I'm just going to answer already without even reading it. But just a question. How many women are in the fishing industry in Canada? I would bet it's mostly men. Yes. So why is a woman the Minister of Fisheries? How has she worked in the field? The answer would be no. And it's like a political favor to her. And also they just need to fill in a number of boxes for women ministers. And here's one that the Liberals don't care about. Probably planning on phasing out fishing entirely, actually, to please the UN. So just throw, just as a political favor, just throw this person in there who is totally unqualified. I'm going to guess. Oh, Nazi, how you doing? Says it's science, yo. That's right. They're still getting us with that. Science. It's science. Let's see. We have to just arbitrarily start blocking, arbitrarily picking 30% of areas to not allow fishing in for science reasons. Everybody has to do the same, regardless of circumstances. Science, because that's science. That's how science works. Let's see. Our Nazi says, can natives fish? Yes, they can. Yes, they can. They don't have the same rules. Oh, Klaus thought it through, JJ Nevada says. Klaus Schwab, who penetrated the Trudeau cabinet. I often wonder if Klaus penetrated Trudeau himself. I don't know. What a crazy thing to say. Let's see. Trudeau Survivor says, natives are unbound by catch restrictions. Yeah. It's different rules. Well, indigenous, whatever. I don't know. Whatever people want to say at this point. I don't care anymore. Let's see. Radio Streamer says, this is what happens when your college professor teaches you nothing but how to play word games to argue for communist ideals without any substance to back it because of lack of education. Well, when you're not taught how to think, but what to think, and actually instilled with the fear of thinking the wrong thing, well, that's called indoctrination, and that's what's happening. Our Nazi says, same here, Whatcom County. It's crazy. Well, that's Washington State, right? So, yeah, totally nuts. Let's see. Trudeau Survivor says, cities run out of food in 3 days. Yes, like I keep saying it. Nobody listens to me. Well, you guys listen to me, but I keep saying, like, civilization is on a razor's edge all the time. Like, if there's like EMP, if there's like a electromagnetic pulse that goes off, I don't know, somebody, if the Russians, set off a bunch of nukes in the atmosphere, right? The power grid goes down. People will be eating each other within a week. All right. Like, guaranteed. There's some people that are just waiting to eat somebody right now. They're hoping that happens so they can start eating people. Like, we're on a razor's edge all of the time. We are not at the end of history. History still has a lot to say. Let's see. Washington, yeah. I mean, it's the same in the States as it is in Canada. The cities are super woke, and then everywhere outside the cities is normal. Normals, as we call them, just normal people, not lunatics. But then the rural people have to suffer under the rule of the crazy people, the people with the crazy ideas that appear to have been totally indoctrinated into fantasy land. All right, should I see if I can find an ad? Is there an ad worth doing for me? Let's see. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Do you know what? It's 69 cents. Let's do it. I think this will be fun. I've never done this ad before. This should be good. All right, people. AXS Med, pronounced Access Med, that's pronounced Access Med, powered by Trinova Health, is a revolutionary telehealth service that offers fast, free online evaluations and free home delivery of customized compounded medications, offering custom weight loss support, and custom is the best way. Everybody knows that. Ivermectin therapy, hair restoration, always better to have more of that, except on your back. Cosmetic rejuvenation, custom ED treatments, and more. You can complete your visit in less than 10 minutes. I can't believe it's that convenient. And there's no subscriptions or recurring fees. And that, my friends, is ever. You know what to do. My God, I had no idea how much I was going to enjoy reading that ad. That's what I was born to do. Why is my channel not just me reading ads? Just reading ads, just tons of them, random ads, any ads. You guys send in ads, I'll read them. That should be the channel. This is what I was born to do. I should be doing this nonstop. It should be my life. It's already my passion. It's already my passion to read that. I love it. The ad copy was beautiful, obviously, brilliant. To me, it just reads like poetry. My God, that felt good. And I'm not being facetious. I'm not kidding. That felt like $1 billion. I do enjoy it. I've got to be honest. I really do enjoy doing the ad reads. All right. Trudeau Survivor says, can't be bought for 43 cents, but 69 cents? Yes, that's my price. So now everybody knows my price is 69 cents and not a penny less. I might do 68. All right. Now what are we doing? Raider Streamer says 7.9 out of 10. Fantastic delivery and riffing. More commie hate. Well, the thing is, I don't know. I didn't read whether or not I can improvise on it. So, I don't want to get like kicked out of the ad reading thing. So I got to be careful with it a little bit, I think. I wonder what the most popular Rumble channel gets paid for that. Probably a lot, I'm guessing. Probably thousands. Let's see. Jack, how you doing? Good to see you. If I didn't say hi before. Let's see. Rosie says 8.9, great ad read, not enough commie hate. There wasn't any, sadly. Next time, though, we'll try and work some in. Thank you, Rosie. The 8.9 is the most you can get out of 10, so, you know. Trudeau Survivor says, let's talk about the round moon conspiracy theory.
Oh, good for you.
Oh, dear. Oh, dear. Radio Streamer says, commies don't want you healthy. They're done. No, they don't. They don't care about that. They want you obedient is what they want. What do we got next? Let's take a look at this. Ted Nugent. This is, I think one of you guys sent this in. Ted Nugent posted this. The real Ted Nugent. This isn't complicated, he says. So I guess these guys here are arguing with a couple of commies or several. So this is what they like to do. They don't like reality or results, like demonstrable facts and results, things you can prove. So they want to talk about theory. Because in the theory world, communism's great. It works super great in theory. Socialism works great in theory. Not so great in outcomes, though. That's the problem. So they don't want to talk about outcomes. What they want to do is they don't want to fit their ideology into the world. They want to fit the world into their ideology, and they're very happy to break the world and all the people in it in the process. So, outcomes, not something they're so interested in, really. They just want to talk about the theory, how it should be. Let's continue. Well, and also not just to, flee the system, the horrific, capitalist or liberal democracy system, but also why wouldn't people be fleeing to Venezuela? Like, it's just the most obvious metric, right? Like, there's a reason people aren't fleeing to North Korea. There's a reason why people aren't fleeing to Cuba. They're not fleeing to Venezuela, right? It's the most obvious metric. It's a matter of outcomes, which they don't like. They don't like that it's got to be theory. It only works in theory, and I think that they know this. So they want to just ignore, just reality. I mean, the most obvious things. What are people fleeing from? Usually when people are fleeing from something, risking their lives to get away from something, that something is bad. And then, here, watch it. I want to go back just a second in this. Hold on, where is it? Where he's talking here, and this woman just starts shaking her head. Hold on. See, right here, she's going to start just like shaking it. Watch this. There you go. So what is that? What is she thinking there? Is she thinking, oh, God, he's right. We're such a bunch of idiots. I mean, I still want to ruin everything, but he is right. I mean, how do we argue against reality? It's really hard. We're going to have to work harder to argue against reality, to argue against what's obviously true. If we ever want to, really wreck everything. It's frustrating, isn't it? It's frustrating. They'll never be convinced, though. That's the scary thing, is these people, that guy there, like, they'll never be convinced. They have it in their head. The ideology must be right. This is the thing that's fashionable in my bubble. We must pursue this no matter what, right? It's worse to admit that I'm wrong and be seen as unfashionable and lose everybody in my bubble. Nawada says, wait a minute, he's making too much sense. It's true. Trudeau Survivor makes a great point here. How come these commies don't currently live in a mini commune? Nothing is stopping them from pooling all their money into a shared pot. Well, it asks the question, but why aren't they living in Venezuela? Why aren't they living in Cuba? Why aren't they living in North Korea? North Korea is like the perfect expression of communism, of Marxism, right? Go there. I mean, that's really, again, it doesn't get any more commie than that. So it should be the best place on earth, right? So, rationally, it should be the best place on earth, North Korea, because it's the ultimate expression of communism. Logically speaking, it should be the best place on earth. Let's see. All right. Maybe one last thing here. Hold on.
Venezuela or Russia.
This is not.
Have you?
Shut up, Commie. Commie gets nothing. Oh, that felt good. That felt good. I haven't done that for a while. So, from these guys here, documenting libtards. Here we have more of this weird, boomers crusade against Trump. And nobody seems to be more deranged by Trump than these boomers. And the explanation for why is actually pretty simple. It's that they're watching CNN and MSNBC. And the average viewer age for CNN, MSNBC is, or even just, ABC Nightly News, all of that is about 78, 79, 80 years of age, depending on which one. So their brains are just plugged right into the machine. So if it seems like they are even more deranged than the young people, yeah, that's why. I mean, look at this. Look at what they're doing. I mean, it's just so weird. Seniors. I mean, these people, it's just, this is a new thing. We didn't used to have this weird, activist base of seniors before, far left, radical, progressive seniors who are going around protesting Tesla dealerships and stuff, and creating
wanted to go to
creating little Trump dolls so they could attack. It's weird. It's a new thing. This is, I think, kind of unique in history, actually. This weird boomer crusade.
the ballpark. So here we are at the ballpark. Are you happy now? Okay. And since we're here, I've got something planned for you. Well, here we go, Mr. Orange. Wrong one. You think he has any? Yahoo!
I don't know. I mean, I guess they don't have that many, Trend Aragua, Venezuelan gang members in their retirement home. Maybe if they had more in their retirement home, they'd have a different opinion on things. It's weird, though, right? It's very, very strange. If your grandmother, if this was your grandmother, wouldn't you be concerned? You'd think, oh my God, she's really lost it, right? First she couldn't find the car keys, and then she lost her license, and now she's doing this. Yikes. She couldn't remember how to walk home the other day. Now she's doing this. Maybe she couldn't remember where she lived, and she just ended up at the park doing this. I don't know. But it's a weird thing, right? It's bizarre. We've never seen anything like this, these weird, boomer radicals. It's strange. Radio Streamer says, the memes from this era should be in the Library of Congress. I agree. Let's see. Nevada says, send them on vacation to some shithole country. Well, this would work for both of the last two videos. Both of them. Yeah, I think that the media streamer, I think the media is kind of treasonous, isn't it? It's insane. Bitcoin Teddy posted this. And this is Nicole Shanahan. She was RFK Jr.'s running partner before he decided to join Trump. And Nicole Shanahan, ex-wife of Google co-founder Sergey Brin, former running mate of RFK Jr., and a woman who personally signed 9-figure philanthropy checks, went full whistleblower on the entire Silicon Valley tech wife mafia and how they were used. So, yeah, you have all of these wives who had all of this money and caught in an ideological echo chamber and decided to use their money for what they thought was good, but was actually evil. And here's Nicole Shanahan blowing the whistle on it. Let's take a look.
But what happened around the pandemic is that this whole other segment, what I don't think many of the tech mafia wives realize is that they were used to set the groundwork for what was called like the reset, what is called generally as like the reset by the Klaus Schwabs.
Like
of
the
the
Great
world.
Reset.
The Great Reset. Yeah. They openly talk about this Great Reset.
Yeah.
So the tech wife mafias, I believe, were kind of being conscripted in many ways, and their money especially was being conscripted in to set the groundwork for the Great Reset.
Yeah. Specifically through
a network of NGO advisors, relationship with Hollywood, relationship with Davos, and their own companies. So if you look at like who's on these boards, who hangs out with each other, how the culture of tech wealth works, like Silicon Valley tech wealth, and that small group of people responsible for a huge amount of money and a huge amount of NGO activity across the United States. It's a really small group of people, and it's a really small group of people making these decisions.
Yeah.
And then completely blind to everything else that's going on and how their groundwork is being used to then enable these other policies, these Great Reset policies. Now, what this group of women doesn't realize is that in their haste, these women are all very busy.
Yeah.
They have multiple properties. They have tons of staff. They have staff issues, chronic staff issues. Their kids are busy. Their kids oftentimes have some health issues as well. A lot of them have relationship issues with their husbands. And a lot of them themselves are like medicated on SSRIs and antidepressants and all of that because it's just overwhelming.
Yeah.
So, so it's chaos, and these women find their meaning through their philanthropic work.
Yeah.
And they find themselves, like I would find myself, that was my self-worth, was my philanthropic work, and I really believed in it. I really believed that I was giving Black communities a chance to like rise up out of oppression. I really believed that I was helping Indigenous communities rise up out of oppression. And now that I look back and see how all those grants were forming, because my version of success.
But, like I think if you're being really, really honest, it's also tied in with political fashion, social groups, having fundraisers. These are fun things to do. There's status events, there's all of that as well.
As those communities are actually uplifted.
And if you really did care, right, you would go that next step to actually finding out what is the reality behind these issues that are often very complex and not black and white. Now, she seems to have made that step. But so maybe she cared. So I'm guessing she actually cared more than others do.
Yeah. Not just more money pumped into them.
Not just more money. No, the problems of the community have gotten worse. Crime in the community has gotten worse. Mental health in the Native community, the Indigenous community, has gotten worse. They will even say, the indigenous community will even say that their biggest supporters in Congress have been Republicans, but yet they continue to vote Democrat.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that is this, it's like the whole model is broken. The whole model makes everybody worse off. And now we're contending with the frickin' Great Reset that we're now realizing is a terrible idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that many of our climate change issues are geoengineering issues.
Yeah. Wow.
Which is like, at the end of the day, they always go to that. They're like, but climate change. And then,
Yeah,
and
that
was
really
like,
is the end all be all. Like, you have to let us do this because of climate change.
yeah. Social justice and climate change, it always boils down to those two things. And it gets progressive women 100% of the time.
It does. It does. So,
Yeah, that is true, isn't it? So there's always this nice sounding thing that sounds like justice or something, or social justice or something. Like you have to do crazy thing because climate, right? In order to prevent children from being harmed, you have to give them sex change operations and permanently medicalize them, right? It's the same play on everything, and it never makes any sense. But, very few actually seem to ever wake up out of it, which is a tragedy for Western civilization. All right. All right, we already did that. Shall we do meme review? Or let's go back to the chat for a second. We still got time. Let's see. Radio Streamer says, can you imagine if an effigy of Obama was used like that? That's the word I was looking for during that clip, effigy. They'd be burning down Capitol buildings. Yes, exactly. The old lady hitting the little Trump effigy. Let's see. Chef Rico, hippies and old people in an old people's home. Yes, that's what it is. Well, let's see. All right. Yeah, Trudeau survived. The Kathy Griffin thing was, and Snoop Dogg's thing with that was even worse. But, they're trying to, seniors are trying to mimic that. They think it's cool, I guess. Let's see. G Flood. How you doing, G Flood? All right. Let's do the meme review. All right. This meme review is heavy on the Canadian stuff, but let's see. First off, though, what have we got? Facts Matter posted this. The Strait of, can you figure it out? The Strait of what? So that plus that, the Strait of, can you put it together? It's 5 extra good karmas for the first person who can solve this in the chat. Do 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 do. The Strait of, this one's incredibly easy, people. So let's see. Come on, you guys know this. No, you've got to say it correctly. You've got to. Oh, damn! It didn't work. Radio Schreiber says, just do it phonetically then. It's the Strait. It's in the news these days. It's the Strait of Hormuz. Strait of Hormuz, Iran. You guys knew it. It probably wouldn't let you put it into the chat. That's what I'm going with. Trudeau survivor, Hormuff. Now, I believe this was the porn star who was also like super Gaza lady, big time into Gaza, who could not set foot in Gaza without immediately being stoned to death. But there we go. Radio streamer, Hormuz. Exactly. Strait of Hormuz. All right, let's move on. Okay, got to clear my throat. What do we got here? Alex, so you're welcome, huh? Cheer up. Here's some boobs. A simple message, but an effective one. An effective one. I know I'm happier. What do we have here? Let's see. Objects in mirror are closer than they appear. Uh-oh. That's the Soviet Union. Uh-oh. It is closer. It is. I thought it was way behind us. It's right there. It's right behind us now. How did that happen, by the way? How did that happen? You got people, you got university students walking around with hammer and sickle patches. You got like union leaders, you got union leaders, like pictures of like Mao on their wall. Like, it's crazy. Objects in mirror are closer than they appear. Well, here's the thing. When you pump out a new generation of Red Guard, a new generation of revolutionaries, Marxist revolutionaries from universities every year for decades, you're going to end up with some commies. I mean, now they're going straight to high school and actually straight to kindergarten, actually. That's where they're starting now, literally. All right, what's this? There is no plan to fix anything because the plan was to destroy everything. Well, certainly destroy liberal democracy, for sure. Anybody who's wondering in Canada, why isn't anything getting fixed? Why are things getting better? Let's see. The plan, Carney's plan was never to work in the interest of Canadians, for the well-being of Canadians. Mark Carney's plan was to work in the interest of himself and his net zero global climate finance buddies. That's why he wanted the national credit card, so he could max it out. For himself, for his own interests, and those of his friends. So that's answered. Let's see. Here's Mark Carney again. If you can't win a majority through an election, just bribe MPs until you do. Well, that's exactly what Mark Carney has done. It's exactly what he's done. 5 of them. 4 conservatives, 1 NDP, which is far left. He doesn't care. He knows there's corrupt people in all parties, so he will bribe them. He will bribe them to get his majority so he can max out the national credit card for his net zero global climate finance goals. And when he's done, he will fly out of the country and decide which castle in Switzerland he wants to live in. Let's see what's going on here. So why is Canada so confused right now? Why is it so bad? Why do things keep getting worse? Let's see. Canada's vast natural resources over here. Oh, we have a lot of them. We're not really utilizing them well. Let's see. Liberals. Let's restrict access to our natural resources. Well, that's exactly what we're doing. Let's see. And it's all Trump's fault. All Trump's fault. Ah, dear. Ow, ow, ow. That Trump, that orange man. Need I remind anybody that Canada has been declining since Canada, not me, but Canada made the appalling decision to elect Mr. Magic Socks, Justin Trudeau, Mr. Blackface himself. When he was elected, Canada had the richest middle class in the world. Not so much anymore. Not so much anymore. GDP per capita has gone off a cliff while it continues to rise in the United States. But it's all Trump's fault. All of Canada's problems are Trump's fault. No, they're not. This started a long time ago, and it's only getting worse. Not because of Trump, although with the tariffs, he's not helping. But it was already bad before he got reelected and before he said anything about tariffs. And it's getting worse. So, but just keep blaming Trump. Get those elbows up, folks. Sassy Gal posted this. What does Mark Carney and a turtle sitting on a fence pole have in common? Well, that's interesting. Let's see. You know, he didn't get there by himself. No. Seems like he was just coronated. Let's see. As I remember, 9 out of 10, more than that, 9.9 out of 10. Let's say 99 out of 100 Canadians couldn't have picked him out of a lineup when Justin Trudeau stepped down as prime minister. 99 out of 100 Canadians could not have picked him out of a lineup. when Trudeau stepped down as prime minister. And suddenly, though, he was all the rage. The media was just agog. I mean, they were absolutely astounded. They were so, the media just immediately fell in love with Mark Carney. They put him on a throne, they put a crown on his head and a sword in his hand and said, "This is the great Canadian patriot." I mean, he hasn't lived in Canada for most of his adult life. He's got like 4 passports, but he's the great Canadian patriot that's going to take on the evil orange man down south. And that was it. That was the media was unanimous in this declaration. He was coronated. They went through a joke of a leadership process. Everybody knew that Mark Carney was going to get it. The other people didn't even try. It felt like it was a preordained conclusion. It felt like there was no other option, that simply it was going to be him. And it was. Let's see. He doesn't belong up there. No, he belongs in Europe. He's described himself as a European. He doesn't have any idea of what to do now that he's there. Well, that's not true. Behind the scenes, he's enriching himself and global net zero climate finance. Brookfield, essentially. You wonder who could have thought it. You wonder who could have thought it was a good idea in the first place. The media, who was worried about their funding being cut by Pierre Poilievre, and globalists. He's elevated beyond his ability to function. Well, again, this isn't true. He's functioning very well if his interests are different than what the Canadian public is told his interests are. So if his interests are just Brookfield, let's face it, just Brookfield, just pouring money, pouring subsidies into net zero boondoggles, he's working great. I mean, he's absolutely operating at a maximum level with that. If you're talking about, lowering inflation or, creating jobs, improving the economy, improving GDP per capita, well, no, all of that. But that's not what he's doing. That's not why he's there. Mark Carney is there for himself. Nobody else. Let's see. What's this? Defiant Tells. Very accurate. Let's see. The way that it used to be. Toilet equals 5 minutes. Toilet toilet and phone, 15 minutes. Toilet, phone, Wi-Fi, 55 minutes. Toilet, phone, Wi-Fi, X, infinite. Well, first off, that's just true. But secondly, there used to be a thing that doesn't exist anymore, is that there were bathroom books, right? Like specifically like bad jokes books, that sort of thing. Just things you could just kind of flip through when you're sitting on the toilet. Those don't exist anymore. I used to just have novels I'd just keep in the bathroom, and I'd end up reading on the toilet for like an hour. So for me, it's not really that different, but generally speaking, yeah, it's added a whole new dimension to the most disgusting things that we do. Let's see. John's meme's correct. This word is used to describe somebody who gets offended by memes. Somebody who gets offended by memes. Well, let's take a look. What is a little bitch? Yeah, that's it. Also communist as well. What's this? No context humans. My doctor told me I needed to cut alcohol. There she is cutting the alcohol. That's not what he meant. She knows that. Stop it, you old rummy. Although, at that age, how cruel would a doctor have to be to tell somebody who's like 80, like, no, you've got to stop drinking so you can have a slightly longer, worse quality of life? I don't know. I mean, I'm thinking, everybody knows I've been sober for like 8 years now, but I'm thinking, 75, 80, drink myself to death. I'm thinking about it. Doesn't seem unappealing, I mean, maybe not even limit it to alcohol, just maybe, probably not crack, because I don't like being up high. So heroin. fentanyl, whatever, you know. So it'd be 75, 80, maybe 85, something like that. Doesn't seem like the worst way to go out, really. All right, what's this? Mark Larson. My family told me to get help for my drinking, so I hired a bartender. Uh-oh. That's not what they meant, you stupid rummy. You stupid alky. Not until you're 80, okay? Then you get your bartender. Until then, you've got to be responsible. You stupid. Anyway, let's see. What's this? Name can't be blank. Well, not all authoritarians are communists. Some are just greedy, deceptive businessmen who happen to get elected because we live in a retard colony. Well, through much of the year, it's a frozen retard colony, and right now it's a thawing retard colony. And, but yeah, unfortunately, I mean, I can't dispute this. I can't dispute this. So, yeah, I think we have to be honest with ourselves. What's going on here? Ulrich posted this. So what's the meme here? Labor theory of value, and there's OnlyFans. So this is Achilles. His only weakness was his Achilles tendon. OnlyFans is the what brings down the labor theory of value. What is the labor theory of value, by the way? Let's see. Labor theory of value argues that the economic value of a good or service is determined by the total amount of socially necessary labor time required for its production rather than by consumer preferences or utility. Well, that seems particularly idiotic, right? Like, I don't know. So, okay, how about this? Right? You know, spend 10 years, spend 80 hours a week for 10 years, 7 days a week, writing an epic novel about clipping your toenails, right? That should be like at least one of the most valuable novels in the world right now. At least, you know, modern novels, contemporary novels. But it's not, because it's worthless, because the amount of time put into it doesn't decide its value. What decides its value is if anybody actually has any need or use of it. That's what determines the value, obviously, right? You could if you make something that nobody wants, right? Like if you make, like no matter how much time you put into designing and building a phone that doesn't work, it doesn't matter how much time you put into it. No matter how much time you put into that, nobody's going to want it. It's going to have no value because people don't want it or need it. That's what determines the value. Something's value is what somebody will pay for it, what you can get somebody else to pay for it. That's what it's actually worth. So I've always found this particularly idiotic. Let's say labor theory of value and OnlyFans. Well, you've got some people on OnlyFans making a lot of money and not actually putting that much time into it. Certainly, making more than somebody who's working really hard digging ditches, for instance. Now, obviously it's not everybody in OnlyFans, but you get the point, right? Yeah, the labor theory of value is just obviously on its face ridiculous and wrong. Nothing is worth a penny over what anybody will pay for it. And that's it. Sorry, commies. Well, I guess that's it. Let's go back to the chat. What are you guys talking about? Horror moose. Let's see. What are we talking about? Trudeau Survivor says, oh, I forgot about this. Chrystia Freeland was helping Carney correct his French during their facade debate. Yeah, and it was a facade. It was fake. Totally fake. Rosie says the no women in politics, no women voting is ridiculous. Mostly men are in politics and the governing bodies are corrupt and sick. Yeah, nobody thinks that there should be women in politics. I think with in Canada, what happened was Canada got locked in to this. There has to be gender parity in the cabinet, right? Under Trudeau, who said it's got to be 50-50 because current year, because that's the sort of thing Justin Trudeau would say. The problem here is that there's less women in politics. So now you're picking from a smaller talent pool, which means necessarily that you're going to be getting people. Very likely you're going to have to be selecting people who are less talented, who are less good, because there's a smaller pool, but you've got to fill it out to 50-50 parity in the cabinet, right? That's idiotic. That's stupid. That doesn't mean that there's hey, Margaret Thatcher, right? Do I need to say more? Margaret Thatcher. Every conservative respects Margaret Thatcher, right? But it's when you've got the quotas, right? That there's nothing else can happen other than you're leaving talent on the table when you do that. So, but you're right. Yeah, mostly men are in politics and the governing bodies are corrupt and sick. Yeah, you're 100% right about that, Rosie. G Flood says, yep, you can set the price, but the buyers decide the value. Yes, absolutely. Radio Streamer says, I guess she's having an argument with Radio Streamer here. Rosie says there should be no parity. All should be based on merit and character. And I agree with you 100%, Rosie. That's best person ever talk right there. I recognize that as best person ever talk. So meanwhile in Canada, it's been a lot of Canada today. I'm sorry to put you through this, people, but you need to witness it. You need to witness it so you know what to avoid. Let's see. Scott Robertson posted this clip. So he's Evie Lewis is a commie who's full of all kinds of terrible, failed commie ideas. Let's hear about this one.
This question of public option for groceries been taken up right here in the city of Toronto, which is now studying the proposal. We sparked a national debate, and we have a very clear plan to cut grocery prices by 30 to 40% for Canadians at a cost to the federal government that would subsidize this network of 50 kind of public Costco plus local stores. We'd subsidize it. It costs $350 million to launch and $300 million a year, which is, Anne-Marie, 0.5% of the current defense budget. So these are not expensive, radical proposals. These are practical solutions to the crisis of the cost of living. And we're going to get out there and fight for Canadians and their everyday needs. When the other parties are distracted, Pierre Poilievre is in a leadership crisis with all these floor crossings. And the Prime Minister, I don't know, he's building a big tent so big that I think if the tent is as big as the entire political spectrum, what do they stand for? This question of public.
Yeah, so let's see. What did he say there? Hold on a second.
And $300 million a year, which is, Anne-Marie, $150 million to launch, kind of public Costco plus local stores. We'd subsidize it. It costs $350 million to launch and $300 million a year, which is, Anne-Marie.
Well, first off, that's just not true, but let's continue.
0.5% of the current defense budget. So these are not expensive, radical proposals. These are practical solutions.
Practical solutions, he says. Practical solutions. So government-owned, government subsidies, grocery stores, which it'd only be $300 million a year. It would be a lot more than that. It doesn't take long to come to that conclusion. Let's see. Renaud Brassard says, this idea that cutting grocery prices by 30 to 40% per Canadian would involve $300 million per year subsidy is ludicrous. There are 40 million Canadians. A $300 million subsidy is about $7.50 per person. So, yeah, I mean, this breaks down pretty quickly. The math immediately isn't really working on this. Let's take a look here. In 2023, the average Canadian household spent approximately $12,046 on food, which includes $8,659 for groceries and 3,351 for restaurants. So we could take the restaurants out, $8,600 for food. Already you're starting to go, wait a second. I'm not sure these numbers are going to add up. For a family of four is projected to, for 2026, a family of four is projected to spend up to $17,571 annually on food. Okay, so what was his plan again? So he wants to cut prices by 30 to 40% for Canadians at a cost to the federal government of $350 million to launch, and then $300 million a year. So let's go on the low end of that, say 30% savings. All right. So Canadians, a family of four, projected to spend up to 17,571 annually on food. So what would 30% of that be? It'd be, let's say it's roughly $6,000. $6,000 per person. Or let's just say, okay, so for a person of four, 17,571, right? So 40 million Canadians, we'll say a quarter of that. So for 10 million Canadians, so 10 million times 17,571. All right. So what does that come out to? I believe that comes out to $170 billion. Let's get a calculator. Hold on. Let's see. Calculator. All right. So let's just say 17,000. Oh, hold on. Okay, there we go. So let's say 17,000 times 10 million. Let's see. Yep, that's the right amount. So how much is that? So that is, let's see. So $170 billion. 170 billion. Now what is 30% of 107? So what is 30% of 170 billion? I don't know how to do the math on that. 30%, say, would be I think about 45 billion. Well, let's see. So no, it would be a third would be what, $60 billion, something like that. 60 billion. Yeah, somewhere around there, somewhere around 60 billion, I think. And so no, it wouldn't be 300 million a year. It would be 60 billion a year. 60. And of course, it would be far more than that because it's government, right? I think I've got my, I think I've got those numbers like around the right number. So no, we're not looking at 300 million. It just doesn't work out. That doesn't make sense. Get the grocery prices down by 30 to 40%. Now, if he's talking about part of that being profit, that also doesn't make sense because what is the average profit margin for a grocery store? Hold on. Actually, hold on. Okay. Let's see. What are the average grocery store profit margins? Why isn't it just telling us here? I know what it is, but it's a really good year would be 3 to 4%. All right, hold on a second. Go back. Okay, here we go. Okay, from Marketplace. Margins can be as little as 1%. That's not rare, by the way. It's also not rare to lose money. Overall, a grocery store's profit margins are roughly 1% to 3%. 4% would be a really good year. 1 to 3%. So say it's 3%. So $3 per 100. There is no way that this could cost $300 million a year, as Evie Lewis says. That just doesn't make sense. That's fantasy land. It's just not real. But this will be compelling to a lot of Canadians who won't bother to think about it at all, right? And I expect that the NDP will actually, I think that Evie Lewis, with these crazy fantasies, and he seems kind of serious, right? Like, seems like he might be a kind of a serious thinker. He's got some name recognition in Canada. I think this might pull some people away from the Liberals. In fact, I think it will. Right? A lot of people want crazy fantasies, like they want to be lied to, and he's doing it. And I think it's going to work. I think this is going to pull people away from the Liberals. How many? I don't know. But I don't think the NDP will be polling at 8% in the next election. I think they'll be back into double digits at least. You know, maybe get back to where, Jugmeat was before he sank the ship. All right. Let's see. What are you guys talking about? Ottawa, how you doing? Good to see you. All right. What is going on? What are you guys talking about? I don't know what you guys are talking about. I have no idea. Nevada says, that guy's a jackass. He's a commie. He's a commie. He wants government-run grocery stores and internet and everything, right? There's a portion of Canadians, maybe 25%, who will absolutely buy into that if they hear it enough. Ottawa James says, we need the NDP to steal back some Liberal votes. I think it's going to work. I think he will. All right. All right. Here we are at the last tab. We're 2 hours in. Rathmus posted this. It says, every corpse on Mount Everest was once a very motivated person. Being lazy saves lives. This is why I don't mountain climb or, skydive or leave my house that often, quite frankly. Let's see. What do you got here? Let's take a look.
Hi, one day you will die. Some people are gonna cry, but most are gonna smile. God created you and me, every rock and every tree, all the beauty that we see. And then there's you, scrolling on your phone, looking for some porn, while God is watching you. And God jerks off to you watching porn, and that's why you were born, so God could get it on. Smoking is bad, but you already know there's an easy way to stop, and here's how it time you need to smoke, just think of your dad having sex with your mom in your bed. Doggy style, when the smoking goes away. Make merry with Delta Sunday. Sex with grandma and USA. And if it turns you on, smoking is not that bad.
Okay, that was pretty good. That was pretty good. You always know when dads are at home with the kids. Uh-oh. Oh, you know what? I can't do the music, but we don't need the music, do we? Maybe we save it for tomorrow. I don't know. Let's take a look. Don't send that child to Iran. Please don't. Let's see. This one we got to save for tomorrow. What is this? Robert Novak. Always worth remembering. I work in IT, which is the reason our house has mechanical locks, mechanical windows, routers using open WRT, no smart home crap, no Alexa, Google Assistant, no internet connected thermostats. So let's see. What does it say under here? Tech enthusiasts. Everything in my house is wired to the Internet of Things. I control it from my smartphone. My smart house is Bluetooth enabled and I can give it voice commands via Alexa. I love the future. Programmers, engineers. The most recent piece of technology I own is a printer from 2004, and I keep a loaded gun ready to shoot it if it ever makes an unexpected noise. This sounds like Spambot a bit, doesn't it? Yeah, I prefer just a good old-fashioned mechanical locks. I don't want like somebody to hack my house from India and like lock me out of the house or lock me in or let people in or none of that, or filming me. No, none of that stuff. I don't want any of that crap. No, thank you. All right, Time Capsule Tales posted this. Everyone knows helium makes your voice higher, but have you seen what sulfur hexafluoride does to your voice? Well, that's interesting, isn't it? That's interesting. Let's see. Oh, man. Bro really risked his life for this prank. Let's take a look. That is cruel. That is cruel. This is the person that you love, and you make them look like Justin Trudeau. That is just cruel. Isn't it? Isn't it? Oh, my God. She's saying, I am not Justin Trudeau. I would never do this. I would never do blackface like Justin Trudeau. My God. Just terrible. Just terrible. This one will stay for tomorrow. This one will stay for tomorrow. Let's see. Batya Ungar Sargon. So, remember Liam Ramos, the little boy in the blue hat whose family of asylum seekers became a symbol of Trump's cruelty on immigration. Turns out their asylum case was fraudulent. They are economic migrants here illegally, and a judge has ordered them deported. See, there is a segment of the population, when they see sympathetic images of sympathetic people, their brain just short circuits and they're unable to think in terms of like numbers anymore, right? They just see one and then it could be 20 million people you're talking about, but they all just become this one sympathetic image, which doesn't really work if you're trying to, run like a civilization. But let's take a look.
Everyone remembers the photo of little Liam Ramos, the 5-year-old migrant child pictured in ICE custody in Minneapolis wearing a sky blue bunny hat. ICE said that they tried to give Liam to his mother, but she refused to open the front door, leaving them no choice but to detain him. The liberal media turned him and his family into a cause celeb, evidence of the Trump administration's limitless cruelty, especially after Liam and his father were taken to an ICE detention center. A judge ordered them released on the grounds that they had a pending asylum case. But this asylum case was fraudulent, something an immigration court found in March and ordered the family immediately deported to their home country of Ecuador. And in a recent interview, Liam's mother admitted that they were economic migrants.
Sí, mi niño fue a la puerta y me golpeó la puerta porque yo estaba adentro.
You were scared about being detained. Do you believe ICE was using Liam as bait?
Sí.
Yes, you do.
Sí.
What was the most difficult moment for you during that entire process?
Lo más difícil es que no podía hacer nada, porque no venimos de este país a hacer daño. Venimos a darles el futuro mejor a ellos.
Of course, I understand why somebody would try to falsify their way into a country with a higher standard of living so they can give their children a better future. It's still fraud. Liberals demand that we have compassion for the people coming here illegally and demanding the right to stay. But where is the compassion for working class Americans who have to compete with them for jobs, whose taxpayer dollars go to subsidizing their free health care, whose children have that much less attention from their teachers in public schools? Liam's parents are economic migrants who broke the law and lied to come here, and they need to go home.
Yeah, I mean, the cold, hard reality is that there's just this huge suite of issues behind the sympathetic image, right? That has caused your brain to short circuit, right? And it's very easy to forget that you're talking about millions of people, and now this has consequences. And maybe there are immigration laws for a reason, right? Perhaps the people who created the immigration laws were trying to prevent damage to the economy, to the people that are legally in the country. But there does seem to be a large portion of, like, every Western country, a large portion of the population just seems their brain gets short-circuited from an image or a story, and that's it. They're just lifers now. They will never think rationally again. They will never think larger picture ever again. Let's see.
Everyone remembers.
What do we got here? Konstantin Kisin watched the BBC tech editor interview. Konstantin Kisin watched the BBC's tech editor interview with Elon Musk and came away stunned. This was posted by Camus. Not because of the tough questions, but because the interviewer ran out of questions. How could you run out of questions when you're talking to Elon Musk, right? How do you run out of questions when you're sitting across from the guy who wants to make humanity multiplanetary, built Tesla, and bought Twitter because he believes free speech is existential for society? Oh, but he waved to a crowd, so actually he's a Nazi. They weren't big on free speech, and he was very open about why he was buying X. He did say those words. Free speech is existential for society. That's a good thing. That's a good motivation for buying Twitter and turning it into X. So let's hear this. And Konstantin Kisin does make absolute perfect rational sense on a whole number of different issues. You don't have to agree with everything, but he's never coming from a place of, well, let's say lunacy.
I think what you have is journalists increasingly are now playing to the crowd of other journalists. They have stopped trying to seek the truth, to cover the issues fairly. What they're trying to do is make sure that other journalists see them having asked the right questions.
Yeah, and that really started in earnest with Trump. When Trump came down that escalator, that's when it felt, I mean, there'd always been a leftist bias, and they're always talking to each other to some extent, but there did seem to have been, still some commitment to objectivity and to just truth-telling, to actual, holding the powerful to account. After Trump, that just went out the window. Then it just became, we are determined to shape the world into what we want it to be, and we don't care what the public thinks. That's not our job anymore. Our job now is to manipulate, not inform. Anyway, let's continue.
And so if you're interviewing Elon Musk and you are the tech editor at the BBC, you have to be seen to challenge him, because in the BBC's conception, Elon Musk is this evil right-wing billionaire who's ruined Twitter. And so you have to ask that question. And the other thing is, it shows you how terrible they have become at their jobs. How do you know the worst thing about that interview isn't even what you've just raised? What happened was the guy ran out of questions. How do you run out of questions when you're interviewing the guy who says that he wants to preserve humanity by extending it over several planets? How do you run out of questions when you're interviewing a guy who has built one of the most successful breakthrough innovative companies in the world in Tesla? How do you run out of questions when you're interviewing a guy who spent a huge fortune and overpaid in order to buy Twitter because he believes that changing the way our conversations are being had is essential to changing the way our society is going? How do you run out of questions? How is that possible? That is a dereliction of duty. You know, when we were in America just now, I was on Bill Maher's show along with Elon Musk. And Bill Maher is a seasoned interviewer. He's had his show on HBO and elsewhere for ages. And, you know, I hope he doesn't mind sharing this, but he was so excited about having Elon on. And he had Elon on for about 25 minutes, something like that. And he was like a kid in a candy shop, as they'd say in America. How do you run out of questions? How? And it only means that you just fundamentally are not good at your job.
Well, but what is the job now? Like, the job is not to, inform the public. The job is certainly not curiosity anymore. I mean, we've seen countless examples of journalists being curiously incurious about issues which wouldn't favor leftist politics, progressivism, right? So clearly the job itself has changed. I mean, at this point, you have to say they are doing their job as it's defined for them now. It's just a different job than it used to be. It's woke dysfunction, right? It's once a person or an institution is infected by the idea pathogen, which is radical progressivism, leftism today, which is not the same as it was 20 years ago. It's certainly not liberalism, right? But once a person or an institution, an organization is infected with that idea pathogen, once it's parasitized by it, its former function is now subsumed by the new function, which is spreading the ideology, spreading the mind virus to more people, right? So whatever its old function, whatever that person, that journalist, or the institution itself, which is made up of people, whatever its former purpose was, that's now less important than the new purpose, which is, again, to spread the idea pathogen to more minds. That's what we've seen, right? And that is the new job of a journalist, and we see it across Western civilization, right? It's not unique to any one country. It's not unique to CNN, right? It's CBC, it's BBC. It's almost every single news. It's almost every single news company at this point. So I think in their eyes, they are doing their job as it's defined for them now. And it's not to inform, it's to manipulate. All right. What's this? No matter how many times you've watched it, so here's a palate cleanser. No matter how many times you've watched it, Max the dog playing with his duck friend Fred never fails to make your day. Aww. Look at that. Now, there's no update as to when this dog ripped off that duck's head and then ran and buried it in the woods. It's not in this video, unfortunately. And also, it should be noted, this happened on Epstein Island. So pretty dark, actually. Let's see. We'll save this one for tomorrow. Oh, this is funny. Another palate cleanser. Wholesome side of X. This is wholesome. Just look at this guy here. So smarter than you think they are, probably. He knows what's coming for him, and he's not happy about it. This one is just, he's come to accept his fate. This one, not so much. Actually, we can't do the music. Watch. He's so uncomfortable. He's so unhappy. No. Ow. Ow. Yikes. He's actually having sympathy pains. He's like, no, don't do it. Oh no. Oh no. It's fine. No. He knows what's coming. Oh man. That is funny. What do we have here? Should we do this one? Overton posted this. He says, this is Bill Maher at his absolute best. Bill Maher does seem to be on the right side of so many things, just rational. I mean, he keeps voting Democrat, and he's going to continue for the rest of his life. So he can criticize them all day, every single show. And of course, he doesn't criticize them all the time, but he criticizes them quite a bit. But apparently, he's just going to stick with it forever. I think because of just political fashion, but he stunned his audience by agreeing with J.D. Vance that Western civilization is worth defending and it's better than the rest. I mean, what a shocking thought. What a shocking thought. Maybe Western civilization, which is clearly, undeniably the pinnacle of human well-being, and it's not even close. Maybe that is worth saving. Let's take a look.
Another thing J.D. Vance said is, we will stand with you for Western civilization. Now, he goes too far, Viktor Orban, I think, in some of his standing for Western civilization, but I think you and I both believe there is such a thing as Western civilization. Remember after 9/11, if you said clash of civilizations, it was the beginning of sort of that wokeness where, oh, you don't say that, that's Islamophobia. No, it was a clash of civilizations. The civilizations are very different, and ours is better. And if you're not clapping, spend a week in a Muslim capital. You wouldn't last, especially as a woman. One guy. Thank you.
I agree with that guy.
Another thing.
Yeah, and Bill Maher says there he thinks that Orban goes too far. You just have to say that if you're a Democrat, right? And, you know, Orban is out now. I'm sure he'll probably think that's a good thing. He just lost the election. But he's on the right side of this, clearly, demonstrably, right? Western civilization, good. The principles that built Western civilization, good, clearly. Liberal democracy, and that's really what we're talking about here, good. I mean, we have real-life examples, you know, that you had like you had a couple of countries where it's about as simple as simply put as possible, right? As simply demonstrated as possible. North Korea, South Korea, right? You see the satellite images of that peninsula, and you see South Korea full of lights at night. North Korea, dark. Why is that? West Germany, East Germany, right? Like we have, like it's just demonstrably true, right? The things that have made the successful Western countries successful are good. They're better than everything else. I don't even think it's the best of the bad things. I think it's just demonstrably a good. And when you see, you know, GDP per capita going back, 2,000 years, right? Like you hit the Industrial Revolution and then capitalism, and it's just a hockey stick going straight up. It's beyond debate. It's just simply a demonstrable fact that what he's saying is true. And again, it's not the best of a bunch of bad things. It's just good. It's an actual good. Demonstrably so. All right. What do we got next? Let's see. This we save for tomorrow. That we'll save for tomorrow. This one we have to save for tomorrow. That's it. Let's go back to the chat. What are we, 2.5 hours in? Let's see. What the hell are you guys talking about? What do you guess? I guess talking about appliances now? You don't even pay attention to me in these streams. Good Lord. Let's see. We need the NDP to steal back some Liberal votes. Yes, we did that. Trudeau survivor says Libs upset by Gladue joining the Liberals will switch to the NDP. I talked to one friend of mine who said that's what he's doing. It sounds like his friends are doing the same. So just in case you don't know, we've had floor crossers from the Conservatives, also from the NDP, to the Liberal Party of Canada for Mark Carney to get his majority government so he can just pass whatever legislation, whatever awful globalist legislation that he wants. Plenty of censorship legislation in there. It's going to get bad in Canada over the next 3 years. But Gladue was the latest one leaving from the Conservatives. And she's particularly pissed off the Liberals because she is, to them, I mean, she's actually not, she's not like far right or anything. She is pro-life, and she's a social conservative, which makes her obviously the devil to every Liberal, everybody who voted for Carney. And yeah, I mean, the media hates her, Liberals hate her, but now all of a sudden she's a happy Liberal. And yeah, I think this has caused some cynicism within Liberal voters. And I think particularly NDP voters who left and consolidated for the left for the Liberals in the last election. I think those people will be they will take a cynical look at this. And I think they're going to go back to the NDP. I think that Avi Lewis, as crazy and childish as his policy ideas are, I think they'll appeal to them. And yeah, I mean, there's not going to be any Conservatives going and joining the NDP. I can tell you that much. There'll be nothing in it for them, right? Let's see. Trudeau survivor's fridge was made in 1980, in March 1980. I have no idea how old my fridge is. This house is like 70 years old, and the fridge might have just been original, for all I know. Let's see. Trudeau survivor, is that a can of black spray asking for a friend? It's a can of Trudeau spray. I think they actually sell that now, right? So like a can of like black spray paint, they just call it Trudeau now. Let's see. I'm going down. Trudeau survivor says, for the nail clipping, where's the peanut butter on forehead trick? Actually, that would work. It would work for those creatures. What were they, marmots? I'm going to say they were marmots. Let's see. Ottawa James says, Orban lost today. He did. Actually, it looks like in a landslide. So I think we're going to try and cover that tomorrow or Tuesday. I just need to do a bit more research on it. Let's see. Trudeau survivor, who beat Orban and what were the promises? Well, that's what I need to get to the bottom of. I'm seeing different things. Peter Magyar won, Trudeau survivor says, leader of the center-right opposition. So the claim is that they are right-wing and that they are nationalist, but they are pro-Ukraine instead of anti-Ukraine. So aligned with the EU on that. And the claim is that they think there's too many foreign workers. That would be like an Orban issue, right? That they want to get out, and they're not pro-mass migration. But, did the EU pull a Carney on them because obviously he's backed by the EU, right? Because they hate Orban, Viktor Orban, and the trick is, did they get a carny pulled on them, right? And are they going to end up now just getting flooded with a bunch of migrants that other European countries don't want anymore? And I think that's probably pretty likely. Let's see. But anyway, I wanted to dig a bit more into it before we cover that. Rosie says, when does Alberta act on separation? Well, there's supposed to be a vote in October. There's some legal challenge from Indigenous groups in Alberta now. So it's the whole thing is going to be like this, right? Like Alberta is not going to be, they're not going to let Alberta go easy. Nevada says, can't believe Orban lost. Again, there's a lot of accusations about corruption and building mansions and stuff, and this seems to be coming from the EU, most of it, who hates Orban. So you got to take anything with a grain of salt. But it was a landslide. It looks like, I believe they got a super majority. Radio Streamer says, I have a refrigerator in the house that was in the house when we moved in. It looks like an old meat locker. It was a Westinghouse refrigerator made in the 60s, and it's still running today. They don't make them like they used to. And no computers in them, which is the best kind of fridge, by the way. That fridge is not going to terminate you on Judgment Day. You don't have to worry about waking up and that fridge is looming over you off the side of the bed. Let's see. Dear. What does chili peppers? What is that a reference to with Trudeau? I don't know. Let's see. Nevada says old appliances are always better. All right. Well, I guess that's it, everybody. I guess that's it. I guess we're done. Guess it's over. It's all over. It's all over, folks. There was some good stuff in the chat tonight, though. You guys made me laugh a few times. So I appreciated that. So when are we back? Well, I guess we're back. We're back tomorrow at 6 o'clock for the Rumble Premium stream. It'll only be on Rumble and Locals. So if you're watching on YouTube, you'll have to come over to Rumble to watch that. You have to be a premium member of Rumble, or you can be a paid member of the channel on Rumble, of my channel on Rumble, and you can see our premium streams on Mondays. So that's what we're doing then. Maybe we'll do maybe I'll work tomorrow for hours and hours before the stream and put the Hungary thing together. Maybe we'll do it on Tuesday. But we're back tomorrow. Now, Tuesday, normally we're 6 o'clock, right? 6 o'clock Pacific, 9 o'clock Eastern time. But Tuesday, family thing, so it's going to be late. Yeah, it's going to be, I think, more like 8 o'clock. We're going to do the show. Don't you worry about that. I'm not ruining your Tuesday. Don't you worry about that. We're going to do the show, but we're going to do it later. We're going to have to go, I think 8 o'clock is when we're going to go live on Tuesday. And I have to do it because, look, it's like a birthday thing. It's a family thing. And I tried to get it on the days that I don't stream. And then I couldn't because there's a bunch of different people. And then we had to do it then. And then I had to say, all right, we'll do it on Tuesday. And I'll just do the stream a bit later. And then everyone was like, oh, that's great. As if it didn't even matter. As if it was nothing. I mean, it's not that big of a deal, quite frankly. It's my family and stuff. So, it's not really that big of a deal. But that's Tuesday. 8 o'clock Pacific. That would be 11 o'clock Eastern time. Yikes, that's bad. But I still expect everybody there. No exceptions. All right. And we've done all of the raids that we need to do, the Rumble raids we need to do, so we don't need to do one tonight. So I would like to conclude this session with thanking everybody for showing up tonight. And hold up, maybe we'll do one more. Maybe we'll do one more ad. Hold on. Is it worth it? Let me find out if it's worth it for me. Do you know what? We haven't done a 1775 coffee one in a while. And hey, 47 cents is 47 cents. Let's go. All right, people, still haven't tried 1775 coffee? Now's your shot. The 1775 starter kit just dropped only 1,000 units. That's exclusive, folks. You're getting the bold dark roast that hits hard, the smooth medium roast, and the Vitality mushroom coffee for clean energy and laser focus. No crash, no commies. All single origin, small batch, toxin free, and mold free. And everybody knows that toxin and mold free is the best way. Plus, you're also getting a gold spoon clip because freedom isn't scooped with plastic. What are you, some kind of dummy? A frother strong enough to stir up your coffee and your mother-in-law's opinions. I hope she's not some kind of commie hag. Yikes. And a black 1775 tumbler. Folks, that's $170 worth of coffee and gear. Yours for, I can't even believe that I'm saying this, only $99. Do I need to say that's less than $100? This is for the ones who've been watching 1775 blow up on Rumble, wondering if it's actually worth it. Spoiler alert, it sure is. Listen, go to 1775coffee.com/studio and grab your starter kit before they're gone, and they're going fast. Listen, it's bold beans, clean fuel, and a morning routine that stands for something. Could it be anti-communism? I know on Radio Baloney it stands for anti-communism, just like Rumble does. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yep. I did it again. I did it again, people. I did it again. Holy macaroon. I nailed it. I nailed it. Let's all be honest with ourselves. I nailed that. 47 cents. It's like poetry. It's so easy to read. It's like poetry, right? Radio Streamer says, no commies, tell me more. No commies, tell me more. 9.2 out of 10 acceptable levels of commie hate. Well, 9.2 out of 10 is the most you can get out of 10, so I guess I did pretty good. Radio Streamer says, updated to 9.8 out of 10. Again, the most you can get out of 10. And Rosie says 10 out of 10 coffee ad. Coffee hate, 10 out of 10. That's almost the most you can get out of 10. I'm not a mathematician. Let's see. Judo Survivor says Trump is the 47th president. Coincidence? Oh, wait a second, because I made 47 cents for that ad. Holy crap. It's all connecting. It's all connecting. All the data points are starting to connect now. Wow. Thank you for mentioning that now. I can obsess over that. Ottawa James says commie-free coffee is the best. Well, communist coffee isn't actually coffee. It's just dirt that you boil. Oh, dear. The dots are connecting. True Survivor. Yep. You guys know it. You guys know it. True Survivor says 8 p.m. on Wednesday. Wow. Is that a wow in a good way? I'm going to go with it's a wow in a good way. All right. Let's see. Radio Streamer says someone just started connecting strings of yarn on their wall next to their Q manual. I'm doing it tonight. 47 cents. It's got to mean something. This isn't random. All right. But I guess that's it. So you guys did good in the chat tonight. I got to say, you guys did good. You guys did real good. Real good chat tonight. You guys made me laugh. Because you know what the thing is? If you guys weren't there, I'd be ranting into a cold and indifferent universe that hates me. And that would be depressing. But because you guys are here, it's not depressing. In fact, you even make me laugh. So I'm not just screaming out into a cold and indifferent void. Unless you guys are voids and are cold and indifferent. But I don't feel that. I don't think you are. That's not the sense I get out of my chat. The sense I get is I have the best chat, the most awesome, somewhat degenerate, and cruel, probably also the cruelest chat, but also the coolest chat. So anyway, my point being, let's see. Well, it's not my birthday, you guys. It's not my birthday. It's a family birthday. It's not my birthday. Raider Streamer says, I give this chat 9.10 out of tonight. Got to keep us humble. That's true. But 9.8 out of 10 is still the most you can get out of 10. Anyway, my point being, thanks you guys. So we shall see you tomorrow for a crazy, rambling, Rumble premium stream tomorrow. Get your Link Monkey links ready. See you guys. Good night.